Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center. And we've got a special treat today because we're talking to my friend Josh over at WorkSharp to talk about the new Precision Adjust Sharpener that was just recently introduced. And it's a really cool unit. Before I throw over to Josh, it's not necessarily something that is going to be completely foreign looking to a lot of folks out there, but the quality and the price point I think that you guys have achieved on this is pretty awesome. So with that, Josh, how are you, man?
Hey, David. I'm good. Thanks for having me on. And in lieu of current events, this is a great way to get together. So I'm happy we can have this opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Thanks for coming on to the show, so to speak. So tell us a little bit about this sharpener.
Yeah, so like you said, it's a rod and clamp style sharpener, or a jig and clamp, however you want to say it. It's not totally foreign, and we took a lot of inspiration from products that exist and customer feedback that we heard from users of those products and us as knife enthusiasts who have tried those products over the years. And really, I think what we came up with is exactly what you said. This is a price point that hasn't been hit at this level of quality. And so we delivered diamond abrasives, a really simple and secure way to set that angle and have a large amount of adjustment and repeatability. And a lot of the technology, or the piece that we get excited about, especially our engineers get excited about, is the clamp. And this is something that I didn't fully understand when we were first talking about it. They went back and they redesigned 2 or 3 different times to make sure that it was something that we were proud of and that worked well. But the simple mechanism of the V block in the back of the clamp is really significant, because it means that every time you drop a knife into the guide, it stops at the same point. And so the blade is the same distance from the clamp face as it would be the last time you sharpen, which means that when you return to the precision adjust to sharpen back at the same angle, if you always have it set at 20 degrees, or that this knife that you carry is a 20-degree edge, you're really back at that true 20 degrees, and it's consistent each time. There's not variability when you clamp in different positions. One question that we got about that clamp because of that is, do you need to have the knife rested against both V blocks or just one? And really, just like one of the most sturdy shapes is a triangle. Or if you're building a shop stool, you build it with 3 legs instead of 4, and that way it's not going to tip as much. It has to rest on 3 legs at a time. And so as long as there's one point of contact inside of the clamp, and then the 2 points of contact with the clamp itself, you have a really sturdy purchase on the blade. And that allows you to position most types of knife, especially something like a leaf-shaped blade. A lot of your Spydercos, this happens to be a Benchmade, but a lot of knives with different blade shapes clamp really well inside of the clamp.
Yeah, the clamp is, of course, just one piece of the whole puzzle here. We've obviously got the base and the tower up here, and we've got a pretty wide degree of adjustment here for the actual kind of sharpening arm. I think officially 15 to 30 degrees, but there's a little bit of travel even on either side of those markings right there. So you really have a lot of adjustability to really fine tune your edge to exactly your specifications, really.
Yep. You said it. Officially, it's 15 to 30, and we've been able to play with it. If you've got an inclinometer, or if you have an app on your phone, I think I downloaded an app just to check it out and see kind of where it was at. And depending on the knife, if you've got a thumb stud in the way, or if not, if you've just got an open blade face, you may be able to get it a little bit lower than that. That's up to you and outside of the official user's guide. But there's a little bit more value there.
Yeah. I don't know really what kind of highly specialized things you would be going that thin on, but it is an option.
Yeah, one quick thing to keep in mind, we had some questions about the clamp situation. And so when you'll notice that the clamp, when it slides into the tower, there's a white marking on one side.
Mm-hmm.
And that white marking should be face up or should be visible to you when the handle is to your right. That means that when you push the button in the back, it rotates over and won't hit the table.
Provided, of course, you're not using like a big chef's knife or something in there.
Right. If you've got a chef's knife, you might have to tip the base back or bring it to the edge of a table, something like that. But for most of your EDC pocket knives, yeah, flip that handle to the right side with that white marking up, and you'll be able to rotate over.
And I've been playing around with this particular sample a little bit. Some folks may find that a little bit finicky. At least for me, I've actually found it pretty easy to take the whole clamp out of the base and just rotate it that way too. So you have that option if it for folks out there as well.
Yep, designed to be used however it works best for you.
However you get a sharp edge on it, that means it worked.
That's right. That's without getting into it too much. That's one of the most fun pieces about this tool and some of our others that, you know, we've started doing a little bit of video series about how to sharpen, and it comes up so frequently that if you're getting a sharp edge, that's the right way to be doing it for you.
Right.
Now, you know, within some debate, you could be taking off too much material or whatnot, but provided you kind of know what you're doing and you're trying something different, if you're getting the results you like, then that's a sharpening method that works for you. It's interesting to hear everyone's opinions about what works better, what the perfect way is, and you know,
yeah, it's
fun to see people get the results.
Yeah, it's also highly individual too. Like what works great for me is not necessarily going to be what works great for you too. So yeah, there's a lot of debate there for sure, and never a right answer.
That's very true. That is back to the precision adjust. That's one of the things that I think is most exciting for us is I've been able to watch some people get some really, really sharp edges who previous to this had not had that experience sharpening their own knives. There is some user input. You're still in charge of the abrasive and the knife and setting the angle and understanding what's happening. You have to raise a burr still, but you're able, because of the control that it allows and the consistency of the angle every stroke, just like most rod and clamp systems have a high degree of consistency. But because of that and the ease of use that we've built into it, there's some really great results for someone who may not have had a lot of luck sharpening in the past.
Great. Well, speaking of that actual sharpening medium and the rod, let's talk about that piece of the unit next. You've got essentially a three-sided unit here on the rod, which, like the clamp, is kind of held in magnetically.
Yeah, so this it's a ball bearing here on the end of this arm, and actually, my engineer would probably get a little more technical. I think it's like a shoulder ball bearing or something like that. Essentially, you can kind of see how it works there, and it's magnetic into this tower, and specifically to this. I suppose it's a little port for that to lock into, which is set on the lead screw, which adjusts the angle. Anyway, comes out really easy with a little bit of downward force. On the rod itself, yeah, you said it, there's 3 abrasives. We call that tri-abrasive, really fancy speak. And
I think that's 320, Latin, right?
Yeah, Latin. There's a 320, a 600 diamond, and then a fine ceramic, which ceramic is measured different than your typical grit system, but it's about 1,000 to 1,200. Very
nice. And you can definitely get the range you need for most applications with that, especially for a pro, what's the word I'm looking for? A consumer level device as opposed to like a real high end pro system. Definitely works very well. I've done some kitchen knives on it. Now, at this point, do you guys have any intention of kind of doing any add-ons or upgrades to the tri-abrasive end of this, or can these be purchased as a replacement if you wear them out? How do you guys see this going forward, if you don't mind me asking?
Of course. Yeah, we are we are committed to the platform here, and we've heard our early consumers and our early customers and people who want to be customers loud and clear. People want more, and I believe you can get a great sharp edge. I know you can get a great sharp edge with these abrasives, and I'll show you a couple of additional tips to make it really go above and beyond. And there is more in the works. Stay tuned. Later this year, we will be delivering. I'll just say we're in the testing phase right now, so I don't know exactly what's coming, but we're making sure that we're ready to deliver the best additional solutions.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, all right. Well, I'll kind of pop this guy into the tower here. You said you may have some tips and tricks for us in actual use. Take it away.
Yeah. So as you saw, it's a 320, a 600, and a fine ceramic. A 320 diamond, 600 diamond, and fine ceramic. Most of the time when I'm making the stroke, I will be pushing into or pulling away from the edge. As I finish, or as I raise the burr, and then I'll flip the knife over and repeat the same process on the other side. That's pretty standard. Then I'll take one more pass with the same abrasive. So I'm still maybe on that 320 grit. And I will make one sweeping pass more across, traversing the blade rather than opposing it with very light pressure. What that's going to do is reduce the number of striations that are coming across and perpendicular to the blade, and much more of a smoothing motion across the face of a blade. I'll do that with both the 320 and the 600 diamond, and then I'll even do that with the ceramic. One step I'll go farther with the ceramic is that you can add a little bit of water. Okay. And I've noticed that it just glides over the edge at, I don't know what the perfect grit comparison is, or how it acts, but what I think is happening is that it's removing a lot of the metal from the blade, and so you're not reintroducing the shavings that you're just removed back onto the blade, which could cause some light scratching or not a perfect blade finish. Also, with a little bit of water in there, you're likely reducing the surface pressure. And so it's actually not pressing as hard or cutting as hard into the steel, thus removing even less material. So by following that principle, I've got some knives to a near mirror polish, and then you can take them off to a strop if you want. And that's something that we've heard, again, loud and clear, people want built into this system. And if you're into knife sharpening at all, you probably have some other form of a leather strop. So, take it off this platform and touch it up on a leather strop, and you'll see. Yeah, I don't know what that wouldn't deliver outside of a perfect mirror edge. Anything for practical use, this is razor sharp and yeah, scary sharp. It's whittling hairs.
Yeah. And especially by using, diamond abrasives here, you're going to be able to cover a lot of ground in terms of alloys that you can sharpen too, like any of the modern super steels with really high wear resistance. You're going to be able to kind of achieve that same thing. Might take a little bit longer, but you can still do it with this unit.
Yep, indeed. Just like, diamond is a great tool for any of this modern super steels. We get that question a lot, like, I just got a new knife, M390. Is it able to sharpen? Sure, M390 is a tough steel, but diamond on the simple Mohs hardness scale, diamond is harder than steel, and it will cut through that steel. It will take time, but you are able to achieve that results. One tip for sharpening a super steel blade is to keep your angle in mind. If you're sharpening it for the first time, or you don't want to remove a lot of material, maybe you don't know what angle it was set at, there's a few ways you could determine what angle. But before that, you could likely get to a pretty close ballpark and assume, okay, maybe my knife was sharpened to 20 or 22 degrees. If I come in with a ceramic or a fine diamond and touch up at 25 degrees, I'm creating a very fine micro bevel, and I'm not affecting the whole cutting edge. I don't have to remove a lot of material to get sharp. And so you can get in, get the job done, get back to sharp really quick. As the knife wears farther, maybe then you send it to the manufacturer to get officially sharpened, or you take some time and reprofile it down to an angle that and you say, okay, I'm gonna take some time, I'm gonna sit down. It might take an hour with a system like this to reprofile a high wear resistant blade. to an angle that you like.
But it will work for sure.
It will get the job done.
I did that on not necessarily a high wear resistant, but I reprofiled a paring knife was actually the first thing I did with this. I guess one of my tips that helped me in that case, I was actually kind of doing some circular motions on one side until I got that burr or real close and kind of worked up to it. I found it a little more smooth for me than doing single strokes and a little more maybe time efficient, so to speak. But like you said, like whatever works, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's been interesting to see, some people really like moving into the blade. Some people like pulling away or only doing that sweeping motion. I find that I like the back and forth a little bit because it feels a little bit more controlled, or there's a rhythm to it. I can kind of count, 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe I'll do 25 across one side. But at least it's a benchmark for me to understand how much effort am I putting into one side so that I can repeat that on the other and end up with a very symmetrical blade.
Very nice. Well, let's speak about kind of different blade types here. I think I did up to about an 8-inch chef's knife on this, no problem. So you can get anything from a small keychain size knife essentially up to at least that size. Have you guys? Well, have you guys done anything on longer blades than that even? There's a fair bit of travel to this. But what about some more specialized blade types too, like recurves or stuff like that? What's the best way to sharpen those with a unit like this?
Yeah, I'll try to go a little rapid fire. There's a lot of blade types out there. We found that you're about in the ballpark with an 8-inch chef's knife. I sharpened a 10-inch knife on it, but at that point, there's a little bit of play, and in reality, you are actually sharpening at different angles way out here compared to right here. And on a pocket knife, on a 4 or even a 6 or even really an 8-inch blade, because you're clamped in the middle of that blade, it's not that much. You start getting out much farther than that, and there is some change. It's very subtle, but I like about an 8-inch blade's about where I want to be for my maximum length. The spine thickness, I believe it can clamp up to a 3/16 spine thickness. Now, keep in mind, some blades are much thicker towards obviously not this knife, but some blades are much thicker on the spine here, and they have distal taper out towards the tip. So even if the spine starts out as a 1/4-inch piece of steel, midway, it might actually fit into that clamp. It might be less than 3/16.
Right. And like you said, if you've got that triangle of the 2 points on the clamp and one side of the V, that's going to be just fine.
Yep, that's all you need. Many karambit type blades or recurve blades, it's actually not significant enough of a curve that this is unable to sharpen it. The diamond is wrapped all the way to the edge, and the ceramic is a solid piece. And so even the edge of the ceramic is abrasive and will sharpen. You're minimizing the amount of contact you have, but it's still controlled and at the angle set from the sharpener. So if you have and are making contact, then it'll work. Your extreme blades, there's a better way to sharpen. Obviously, we make other types of sharpeners, and I would recommend something with a flexible belt or a round ceramic rod.
Now, what about Tonto blades? When you get out towards the tip, would you just kind of go through that with the same motion, or would you actually make any kind of adjustments to get to the tip on a Tonto with this system?
Good question. I think that the key with a Tonto is to treat it as 2 separate knives. You could do that in 2 different ways. One, you could just stop at that transition point, just like you would when sharpening at the tip of a knife. You don't want to round over that tip as you're drawing the precision adjust across. You want to stop with that tip on the abrasive. The same thing is true if you're sharpening a Tonto. I don't have one in front of me, but you'd want to stop without rounding over that, and you want to match the abrasive without tipping over onto that secondary cutting edge. You could also reclamp the knife in a different position to address only the Tonto or front cutting portion. That would be an interesting way to do it. The primary reason that I would do that is if I wanted a different angle on a different piece of the knife. And actually, I forgot I'm carrying a knife that's kind of like a Tonto, just a differential grind. The angle back here is something like 18 degrees, and the angle up here is closer to 22 degrees. It's thicker. There's more meat up there, and so it's going to require. If you notice, the reveal or the bevel height is about the same most of the way, and because of that, the angle has to change because of the thickness of steel. Mm-hmm. Changes in the different sections of the blade. So if you wanted to do that, then you would either reclamp the blade in a different position, or you would just adjust the angle and only sharpen the tip portion of the blade.
Okay, right on. Well, that's about all the questions I have specifically. Like I said, I'm really excited about this unit because it is really solid. It feels good. It's nicely weighted. It's going to work, and the price really is pretty darn incredible. I mean, we're less than $50 retail price on our website right now for this. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but very easy to get your hands on. Anything else you want to tell us about it before we sign off?
I think that's it. If you see one of these available, when they're available on KnifeCenter, I would grab it. We are working really hard to keep these in stock. And that being said, we've been wrong before. So if you see this and it's available, I recommend getting your hands on it.
2020 has certainly made fools of us all, and 2021 hasn't shown us one way or the other yet.
Indeed.
Well, Josh, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to show us the unit. Folks, thanks for watching. And as always, we'll leave links in the description to take you over to the KnifeCenter where you can get your hands on one of these units, or at least get a pre-order in for when they come back in stock. Guys, thank you so much. Josh, thank you.
See you guys.